Hello and welcome back again, Power BI enthusiasts, to the Power App tutorial channel. We are continuing with our Power Up Challenge series for the Power BI. This is going to be part 5. And in our last video, we completed the card screen, which is here. And we're going to use these cards in our visuals. But before we begin the video, if you're new here, please hit that subscription button, add a notification bell, and give the video a thumbs up if you're enjoying what you're viewing. Alright, let's get on with the video. So today we're just going to jump straight into the shelter review and start building this page. And we already started with this page. If you can remember, we had a visual on our test measures, and I'm going to just copy this. So just Control C here and then paste it in the shelter review. Click on it and Control C and then Control V. All right, so once you're done pasting it, you can just drag and drop it, and I'm just gonna push this, let it stay right here on the bottom screen, and we're gonna adjust the visual a little. So go to the visuals pane, and what we're gonna start doing first is renaming these fields. So first of all, if you want to rename a field, by the way, you can just right click on it and then click on rename for this visual. So I'm gonna right click rename, and I'm gonna rename all of them so that they look the way I want them. I'll be back. Don't forget to hit enter when you're done renaming. Okay, so we are back, and I renamed them shelter name, shelter status, and for the values, I shortened them names down so we can have more real estate space for our values. And then I'm going to try and center this. So to center a visual, all these are all customizable, which is one of the beautiful things about Power BI. So I'm just going to use specific column to center this. So for average days, center in the middle. Maybe I should center left. Yeah, let's leave it in the middle. And then for animals rescued, same thing. And you can do as much modifications as you want, but I'm just going to focus on centering. And then we change some other things for this visual. First one last year, centered that too. All right, reduce this specific column, and let's remove subtotals and row totals. I don't like this totals. Okay, this looks okay for now. Let's continue with our visual. So the next thing I'm going to grab is going to be a tree map. So just make sure you're clicking on the blank side of the screen and not on your visual. And let's select the tree map. I'm going to drag this up here, put this here. All right, there's one thing we haven't done yet, and I think we should probably do that now before we continue with this tree map. Every screen needs a label, a header. So I'm just going to put a header for this one. And this one is going to be our shelter review. So type shelter review. All right, and then let's just increase the font size to like 24. Make it bold, make it centered. Click on all of them. So double click to, let's change the font size again. Thank you. That's the result we want. And I'm just going to drag this up top. So if you're having issues dragging the label header, just click on the three dots on the side. Let's drag this a little in. And I'm going to insert, just like before, we're going to insert a button, a back button. Just adjust it. All right, that should be okay for our header screen. It should be fine. And then let's go back to our tree map. So for our tree map, click on the tree map to select it, and let's add some data to it. And we're going to go straight to the shelter name first. So go to the shelter home, and let's grab the shelter name. And then open the measures field, and let's grab our total animals rescued. Awesome. You can rename this, but as for now, I'm going to leave it like this. I do want the numbers to show. So if you notice, if you click on the visual, you don't see the numbers. So I'm going to let the numbers pop up. So format this visual, click on format this visual, and then on the data levels, just click on awesome. So that's the end of our map, and I'm just going to adjust this a little bit so it looks a little bit better. I'm going to increase the font weight for this guy to 28. 28. Extend this out a little. Then I'm going to drag this guy all the way to the end. Let's make some space for our other visuals. You can come here too. All right, if we need to make some more adjustments, we will. I want to grab two cards from our card screen, but instead of grabbing old cards, let's add the new card. So the new card has this lightning strike right next to the 1, 2, 3. So just click on that for the new cards to appear. And the two fields we're gonna add is the total animals rescued and the total animals fostered. All right, so the new card helps us to display those values without having us do too much work. All you have to do is just format the screen so it looks better and you can see what you're displaying. And I'm gonna adjust this guy too. Oh yeah, so all these visuals interact with each other. Let's reset that a minute. So the switch screens to reset it. All right, so total animals rescued on that side. I'm gonna adjust this a little. I'll be back when it looks. Oh, let's just do this together. So we should be on the new card visual and then click on format from visual. And let's open layout. Layout looks good. Leave it as 3 card, that's fine. Color values, open color values down, and let's reduce the font size. So reduce the font size to 36, and then let's center it horizontal. And when you're done centering, go down a little, open the label section. And for the label section, let's put it below value. All right, and then let's go to the cards. And for the cards, so open the cards drop down menu. And for the cards, change the size from normal to custom. All right, and then let's adjust this a little bit. It should look good. All right, so that should be fine for that visual. All right, so while we got our momentum going, let's add one more visual to our table, and this is gonna be the line and stack column chart. So just make sure you're not clicked on any of your visuals, but you're clicked on an empty space on your screen, and then click the line stacked. And for this, we are going to create a new. So open the dim dates, and we're going to create a hierarchy for this line chart. And so right click on year, right click on the year and click create hierarchy. All right, and once that's created, we're going to add the month. So right click on the month and add, to let me add to hierarchy. So click on add to hierarchy, year hierarchy, and we should have a hierarchy of year and months once you click the drop down menu. Awesome. So this hierarchy is what we're going to drag to our x-axis. So just tap on that to drag to let it snap to the x-axis. And then for our y-axis, we're going to go to our measures, and let's add our total animals rescued for our y-axis. Awesome. Let's adjust this a little. And you can go ahead and modify all this as best as you can. Let's see if we can extend this down some. All right. Okay. Grid lines. Everything should look. All right. So the last thing we're going to add is the year on year. So just make sure you're on the visual for our line stack, and let's grab our year on year, drag it and drop it on the y-axis. All right. So our image has gotten wonky. Let's see what's going on. So I'm going to right click on that and then click show as table so we can see what's going on. Let's reduce this guy. Okay, so our data is actually good. So that if you look at the table, there's a difference of -31, and that's why it's dropped below that. We can adjust this a little. Let's adjust this a little. So I'm going to go back, and then for this visual, when I click on the visual, open your visualizations page, and then we can adjust this a little. So show value as percentage of grand total. That'll adjust it a little. Let's see what it looks like in a table. I'm gonna reduce this visual. Well, it looks a little bit better. It's -1%, so the drop down it's not that much. And you can leave it like this, but I really don't like negative values in my visuals. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna adjust our change of year animal rescue. So just click on that to show our code. And currently our code says total animals rescued minus total animals rescued last year is what our code says. What we're gonna do is we're gonna adjust this so that if we come across values less than 0, it's just going to round it up to 0. And that's going to remove our negative value. So we're going to change this code and put in a new code, which is going to be, this is going to be our new code. So if total animals is greater than or equal to total animals rescued last year, and then we'll subtract. If it's not, we're going to get back our 0 and hit commit. And we should see our visual change. Awesome. That looks good. All right, so with that all set, reduce this, open the visuals, and I want to see how our page looks like with nothing added to it. So it's saying total animals rescues and GT change while it looks weird. So I'm gonna adjust this visual. So let's click on this visual. And we're gonna rename this field. So rename this, rename for this visual. Okay, we're back and I renamed it to change year on year. So the visual looks a little bit better now. I'm gonna leave it as it is and let's move on to our next screen. And I wanna work on the details screen next. So there's nothing in the details screen. But before we work on that, let's go to the available animal screen because this is what we're gonna use in our details screen. So I'm gonna modify this a little. Let's drag this up. And the first thing I'm going to add is going to be, let's expand the visualization. I'm going to add the shelter name. So with the shelter name added, let's drag that all the way to the top. Do that again. Thank you. Let's see. Let's modify this a little. Animal age, animal type. So here's what we're going to do because I want this to occupy the whole space. I don't like scrolling from left to right. That's a very bad user experience. I don't want my users to have that experience. So we're going to do some modification to the screen first before we copy and paste it in our detail screen. Because I'm going to add this to our detail screen. And then we're going to add one more column when we move it to our detail screen. But for this, we need to adjust this. So open the visualization tab, and we're going to rename all these columns first. So rename them, and I'll be back. And remember, to rename is just to right click on it and click on rename for this visual. And then just rename it and hit enter. Okay, so we are back and I renamed it shelter name. And then for animal name, I just put in name. For type, animal type, I just put in type. And the rest of the fields look like that. And with that, our visual looks a little bit better. As you can see, if you scroll all the way down, you can see all the fields fine. I am going to center the age. I'm going to leave the rest the way they are, but I'm going to center the age. So to center the age, we just go to visualization just like before, format from visual, and then click on the specific column tab. And let's look for age and just center that. All right, that looks good. Why is it looking? Okay, I can center the header, but I'm just going to leave it the way it is. And then we haven't saved, so let's just save at this point. All right, and now we're going to copy this guy and paste him in our details. So just Control C and then paste it in the details screen so we can continue modifying the details screen. Awesome. So we are in our details screen and I've copied and pasted our visual from the animals, available animals screen. And as you can see, it also came with our rename field, which is awesome. So that means we don't have to rename our columns anymore. It just came like that. And now we are going to add one more field to this table. So open the visualization again. And let's add, just make sure you're clicking on the visual we were talking about, which is the table. And let's add one more field, which is going to be the average days from shelter to foster. Let's put that in there and extend this out a little. And I'm going to go to the visuals again, specific column. Let's grab the average days and I'm going to align left. Yeah, let it stay like that. I don't want it in the middle. It's adding totals now. As you can see, there's like a total here. So let's remove that total. Probably came when we added the remove total. Just click total off. Awesome. All right. We need to add one more visual to our screen. So click on anywhere on the screen. Oh, we have a back button here, if you can, if you've noticed. So you can just extend that because we definitely need a back button for this. If you don't have a back button, you just go to insert and grab a back button and put it in here. But since this is here, I'm just going to use it. But I am going to modify the color. So with the back button selected for the button, put the icon button down and let's modify the color instead here to white. Yep, let that look like that and go back to the visual and we're going to add one more thing here, which is going to be a card. So just grab the 1, 2, 3 for the regular card and let it paste on the screen. And for this card, we're going to add our measure that says report header drill through. So that's what we're going to add for this card. So just make sure that the card is selected and then click report header drill through. Let's get some real estate space. Now, from the header drill through, from the description I described when we were creating the code for the drill through actually grabs the shelter name. So it's going to display the shelter name based on where you're coming from. Now I'm going to show you, we're going to do a demo of how this drill-through page works. Okay. And as you can see, our back button is no more showing. I'm just going to push this over here. We don't need all that space anyway for the drill-through label. And this should be fine. One more thing we need to add here for this, our drill-through page is going to be our card, but this time we're going to add a new card. And I'm just going to adjust this table down a little so you can have some space for the card. And for this card, so make sure you're clicked on the card. We're going to add total animals rescued again. And average days shelter to foster. So this is going to be the overall for our table, and then we're still going to have specific for our specific days for our table too. Let's just do some adjustments. Extend this out a little. Modify this again. I want to modify the layout. Leave it at 36. This one should be 38. Leave it at 38. It's fine at 38. And then center. And I want the labels to be below. So put it below. There we go. And then finally for the cards, let's leave it custom. I like custom. They're more customizable when they're custom. And then you can adjust the patterns however you like it. But this should be it for our drill through page. So let's hit save. All right, so this is how a drill through page works, okay? So we have our call outs values for our page, but there's something else that a page needs. So if you can see on this page itself, there is nothing here for values. And what I mean by on this page itself is if you don't click on anything on the screen and you just click on the Power BI page and you open the visual, it's not doing anything. So it's not filtering anything, it's not grabbing any values. So you can turn a page into a details drill through page by adding values to the page. This is what I mean. So the first thing we're going to add to this page is going to be the month. So if you click on the drop down menu for dim dates, just drag and drop the month in the add drill through here. So that's going to be our first drill through. After adding the month, let's add the shelter name. You know what? While we're here, let's add the year because we also need the year. So just drag it and drop it here. Now let's go and find our shelter name. Drag it and drop it under the drill through. And then shelter status. Let's see where shelter status. It should be in the animal info. So yeah, open animal info. There we go. So I think there's a maximum number of drill throughs you can add. But basically, a drill through is a page that appears based on the column types you're trying to search for. So for example, if we go to our review page and let's hit save. If we go to our review page and we are on our matrix and we are like, okay, I see companion creator has 11 animals rescued, 8 animals fostered and rescued, 10 rescued last year is 10. I want to see more details. And then you click into here and then you see, okay, 5 of them were adopted and on and on. And then you said, okay, I want to see more in detail about this. If you right click on any of the properties, so remember we put shelter status as one of the things you can drill through. If you right click on it and you go to drill through, it will give you the option to go through a details page. When you click on the details, it will take you to our details page, right? And as you can see, we have an error here, which we will adjust later. So drill through companion creator retreat is going to be the header, and that's coming in dynamically because of our code. And then it's going to have total animals rescued for that shelter and the average days overall for the shelter. And then we have some more details about the 5 animals that were rescued, you know, what were their names, what are their types, how the average days it takes. So this is essentially what the drill through page is going to be doing. And we can also drill through from the available animals table. So you could come to the available animals tables and you say, okay, I want to get more details about happy trails. Because we add shelter name as one of the drill through, you can actually drill through to the shelter name. And this time around, as you can see, it takes a different dynamic format. So it's drill through happy trails haven. And then it gives you more info about the animal, which you don't really need. So this drill through page is actually meant for our shelter review. If you want to drill through to a shelter review, like say for example, I want to drill through from here. You can also drill through from here, and to give you all the details about happy trails. So the drill through page is a wonderful page, and every Power BI report should have it. But now that we are here, let's fix this error here. So let's click on this drill through visual. Let's look at why we have 2 dashes. Put it down and let's look at our code. And I'm just going to remove this dash here. Okay, so we're back, and don't forget to hit commit once you're done removing and we should have our drill through looking better. All right, so with one dash instead of two dashes. Okay, so this should be it for our details page. Now, all right, let's move on to our available animals page. All right, so for the available animals page, we're going to start by adding some cards. And the two cards I want to add, let's go to the card screen. I don't want to be creating cards anymore since we already have a card. So the two cards I'm going to add are going to be total animal rescued and animals ready for foster. So just copy and paste both of them in the animal available screen. Okay, so we're back and we've added our two cards, total animals rescues and animals ready for foster. And don't worry about this blank. We are going to modify the model driven app. So at least we have like one value here, but I still want to add some more visualizations to this screen. So open visualization and then let's grab something called a slicer. A slicer is a visualization you can actually use to filter your screen. So we're going to add that in here and our slicer is going to be our shelter status. So open the animal table and click on the shelter status. Right now, these are all the shelter status that are popping up. All right. All right, we need to make some more adjustments to this screen. There is one more pane we haven't touched yet. If you have noticed, we've been jumping from data to visualization, and then we added Drillthrough. There's one more page we haven't touched, and that's the filters page. The reason why we haven't touched is that most of the time when we're doing our filtering or adding our labels, filters gets added naturally. But if you do decide to turn your page into, so remember when we turn our details page into a drill-through page by adding drill-throughs to the page, the same thing can be applied to the available animals page. So we can turn our available animals page, the entire page, we can turn into a filter itself. And that's what we're going to do here. So we have our available animals, but we need to remember the available animals are for all the animals whose shelter status is in shelter, right? So they have to be in the shelter. Anything that's saying adopted, it shouldn't be showing up for available animals. And guess what? We have a beautiful column that actually does that, which is called the in shelter. So what we're going to do is just going to grab that and add it to filter, to the filter pane. And then we're going to select only the items we want to show. So anything that the status says yes are the items we want to be showing on the screen. And with that, we are done with modifying our available animal screen. So it only shows items that are in the shelter. So we're going to modify it so it says in shelter and at least one that says ready for foster. Before we do that, let's save this visual. And now that that's saved, I'm going to move over to the model-driven app and I'll see you over there. Okay, so we are back in my animal shelter demo solution. It's been a while since we came here, but it's still here doing its thing. And we're gonna go straight to our model-driven app. And just hit play. And instead of looking for an animal whose shelter status is in shelter, Remember, we already have a view for that, so just click on the drop-down menu and open the available animals info view. Yep. So this should have all our animals in the shelter. I'm just going to click on bubbles. And we're going to change the shelter status to ready for foster. Don't forget to hit save. All right, so once we hit save, if we go back to our Power BI, I'll meet you in the Power BI. Okay, so we are back in the Power BI and the changes hasn't shown up yet, but if you're on the home tab, just click on refresh and to refresh the data. And we're back. And once it's done refreshing, you should see 8.1 and a new field for our animal shelter. So this is going to be dynamically increased based on the shelter status. So if the shelter status changes, so does this change. So you don't need to filter two things that are not there. And this is going to be our available animal screen. There is one more thing we need to do for the available animals. While we have our model-driven app popped up, we need to add a link to our model-driven app for all these animals. And we're going to do that using the table view. So let's go straight to the table view. Can reduce this down. Reduce the dim date. This is my shelter. And for animal shelter, right click on animal shelter and click on new column. All right, and we're gonna rename this new column URL model driven. All right, I'm back, and this is gonna be code we are using. It's gonna be the URL model driven equals to, and then we're gonna enter our URL here, and then an ampersand with our animal info table for our Power BI. So this enter URL here is going to be the URL from our model-driven app. And I'm going to switch to the model-driven app and show you how to get this. All right, so we are back in Bubbles form. And if you look up at the URL for Bubbles, it has this long HOO HTTP org. This is the code we are looking. This is the code we are looking for, but we don't need all of it. So as you can see, the 8A3C is going to be the animal info that we are adding using the ampersand. So all we need is from the equal to value all the way to the HTTP. So just copy that. So just copy that and let's go and paste it in our animal shelter. All right, we're back in our Power BI. So make sure you cover the enter URL here and paste it in there. All right, so once you're pasted, make sure it's in parentheses. And then once you're done pasting it and all that, so this is going to be our URL model driven app. Don't forget to hit commit to create the column. And now we're going to add this column to our view once it's done creating. As you can see, it's done creating. Let's just go to our view so we can actually pull it in. So this is our animal shelter. Open the visualization and let's add our new URL model. Click on the table so we can grab data and put it on the table. And I'm just going to drag and drop this on the top side of our shelter, right before our shelter. And it's looking, I know it has like a weird number thing. Don't worry about that. But this is going to be the link that is going to take us to our URL model driven app. To modify that model driven URL, just click on Format Visual and then go to URL icon and click it on. All right, so with that, our URL should change, but it still sees it as a text. So click on the URL model driven. So click on the tab on the right side that says URL model driven so we can see our code. And as you can see up top, we have our name. The data type is text and it's still showing as text. What we're going to do is we're going to categorize this. So go under on categorized and then change it to web URL. And now our table should look like a web URL that you can click. Still loading. All right, so I'm going to adjust this a little bit more so we can see all our data. And this is going to be our representation for our available animal screen. It's going to be almost a replica of what it would look like if we had our Canvas app. But this is what our available animal screen is going to look like. I'm going to rename this visual. So instead of saying total animals rescues, I'm going to rename this to available animals. So with the card clicked on, just rename the visual. So right click and rename for this visual. All right, so now it should be saying animals awaiting rescue, which is the right label for this page. And then while we're here, let's just rename this guy too. So I don't want it to be saying animal shelter. I just want it to say shelter status. So rename this to shelter status. And with that, so with this name the shelter status, we are done with the available animal screen. Let's just jump straight to the report filter and get on with the report filter. So the report filter page is what we're going to be using to filter our available animals and our shelter review. And the first thing we're going to use on this report filters page is going to be a cool new feature called the new slicer. We're going to use the new slicer for this. So just grab the new slicer. It has the lightning rod and then says slicer new. Let's leave it right here. And for this field, let's reduce the animal info. We need the, you know what, I want some space here. So let's increase this guy. For this field, we need the year. So just click on year. And as you can see, it automatically just gives us a new thing to use to slice. That's going to be our year slicer. We're going to add another slicer. So just click on anywhere on the screen and grab another slicer. And this time around, we're going to add the month to that slicer. And we can adjust this to, we're going to adjust this later, but I want to add one more slicer before we start modifying this. So click on anywhere on the screen and then we're going to add the old slicer. And I'm just going to drag. And what we're going to add to this guy is going to be the shelter name. Let's add the shelter name before we start to modify our visuals. All right, let that stay there. Let's reduce data so we can have some real estate space. And then drag this guy here. So these are going to be our 3 filters we're going to be using in our filter screen. I don't like the way month is looking, so let's modify this visual a little. Click on the month, format this visual, and for here, we'll start with the slicer settings, and let's put on the select all option for the slicer, and for the layout, let's make max rows shown to be 4. Okay. Okay, and let's try and extend this out a little and see if we can let everything fall in one space. So I'm not trying to scroll up and down. Move this guy to the right a little. Like I said, it's usually a bad user experience when you're having your users scroll up and down. You usually want everything to be on the same screen. All right, so I've tried to extend it, but I don't want to extend it too much. So I'm just going to increase the column shown to 4. And this is how it's going to look like. I want to modify the year too. So go to the year, and while it has the layout still selected, let's change this to, I'm going to leave it as it is for now. But for the selection, I want to select all. I want the availability for that slicer. The last thing we're going to change is going to be for the shelter name slicer. And I want show select options for all too. All right. And while we're here, let's go ahead and create our label header for our visual. So click on insert, grab a name, extend this and adjust it, and then put in the name report filters, which is the name of our screen. Okay. And then we are going to increase the font size. So make sure you're selecting all of them, increase the font size, and center it just like before. And I'm going to modify this a little. And if you remember from the last time we added a button, so let's add a back button too. And just extend it some. You can push this button in here. And drag this button over here. All right, let's save this. All right, but we have our filters on the screen. And so how are we going to filter from this screen to other screens? Well, there is a special thing in Power BI where you can synchronize your slicers. And that's what we're going to do. So click on the first slicer and then go to the View tab up top. And for the View tab, let's click on Synchronize Slicers. So once you click on Synchronize Slicers, based on the slicer you have on, you should see this pop up. And what this just basically helps us do is to be able to filter from one screen to another. So if I want to filter anything on the let's say I want to filter the shelter review, which is what we're going to do. You just have to click on this and it will filter the shelter review. Now, if you do want the filter to show on that screen, so if I select this filter and I go to that screen and I want the filter to show, you will leave this visibility on, but we don't want that to show. We just want it to filter but not show on the other screen. So just leave that off. And also make sure to click this on too so that it controls both this screen and that screen as a filter. And that's how we are going to filter from one screen to another. So for the year, this is going to be the settings for the synchronized slices. Once that's done, click on the month. For the month screen, we're going to have the same slices. So click on the left one for report filters and then click on the shelter review, and it's also going to select the other one. So make sure to unclick it so that it's not visible on that screen. And then for our shelter name, once you click on that, for the synchronized slices, we're going to have report filters, we're going to have available animals and shelter review. And because we don't want them to be visible on that screen, just make sure to remove the visibility check-ins. And now our filter is all set up and you can hit save. And we are officially done with our visualizations, our reports, our filters, our landing page. Our landing page looks good. Our report filters look good. Available animals looks good. And you can modify this as much as you can to make it look more visually appealing. That's not the point of this video. Our shelter review looks good. And we can drill through from our shelter review to our details page. And then we have our cards and our test measure screens, which are hidden too. So now that we have our report finally finished, let's hit one final save and then we can publish this to our Power BI service. So just hit save one last time. And to publish your Power BI, all you have to do is hit this publish right here. I need to publish this current version into your Power BI service. So click publish. And when you click publish, if you're connected, it should ask you if you're not connected, it will ask you to sign in, but you should be connected. And then you click on My Workspace, which is going to be, everybody has a My Workspace. Anybody has a Power BI? Excuse me. Anybody has a Power BI service has a My Workspace. So just select My Workspace and hit select. And it should publish automatically to your Power BI. This might take a while. And it's done. It says successful. It's got it. And we're going to switch over to our Power BI service. Okay, so I'm in my model-driven app, and I decided to show you how I get to Power BI service from here. But to get to Power BI, you can hit on this burger menu here and and click on Power BI. And once you open Power BI, you should see your recently published Power BI, and that should be this. So click on My Workspace, and inside My Workspace, you should see your recently published Power BI, which is the animal shelter demo. I'm just going to open that. And we have, so the pages that are only going to be visible to you when you open your BI service are the pages you didn't hide. So it's going to be a landing page, report filters, available animals, and shelter review, just like we did. And if you need to go to the details page, remember you have to drill through to the details page to get to that. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed the video. We have actually created our Power BI service, Power BI report, and we published it to the Power BI service. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you for joining me. Goodbye.